Greetings and salutations, fellow Yeards. My name is Yvette Mansulich, and I am the advisor of the Prowl Yearbook at Powell Middle School. And I'm going to talk to you about something that I'm extremely passionate about, and that is how to advance your theme through the use of secondary coverage in your publication. So whenever we talk about any aspect of yearbook, you have to start with a theme. And it is so important that you understand your theme thoroughly. And so I'm here to tell you, theme is more than just the tagline. It's more than just the verbal. The verbal is extremely important, but it's where you marry the verbal and the visual together. And then you come up with a concept that binds your entire publication together. Now, an important aspect of your theme is the verbal. And a great way to actually develop your verbal is through the use of secondary coverage. And there really is an art to crafting secondary coverage, which I hope you'll be able to do as a result of watching this presentation. So there are great books out there, and those great books are distinguished by the fact that they consistently weave both their visual and verbal throughout their entire book. And the way they do that is they start with the cover, the end sheets, the title, the opening, the divider, the closing, and the parting page. But theme belongs in your entire book. So you actually have to make sure that it's on the gut spreads, it's on the interrupter spreads, it's in your index, because a great book will actually develop its theme verbally throughout its content pages. So how do we do it? Well, you got to start with what is secondary coverage. And secondary coverage has a variety of different terms that are in vogue today. And so obviously I'm using the word the phrase secondary coverage, but other people call it alternate coverage, alternative story forms, also known as ASFs, sidebars. I personally like mods. I use this with my kids all the time. It's a word they use, they understand, it's accessible. What's really in vogue today is all coverage devices. In fact, I'm going to show you examples of books that used all coverage devices and ACD to actually develop their theme verbally throughout their book. So why bother? Like, why do we even add secondary coverage to our yearbooks? A lot of different reasons. The first and one of the most important things is the fact that your reader likes for you to carve up information in digestible bits, okay? It's much more accessible for them if they can read stories in mods. So these shorter pieces of content can actually focus on one aspect of a story, or it can provide you with additional details for a larger story that might be in your dominant story. What's cool about mods are they're standalone stories, okay? And they can develop any facet of any given topic whatsoever. But here's the key, and here's what I really want to emphasize. You need to vary your mods throughout your publication, or it will become verbally redundant, and then it's an epic fail. We're seeing on a lot of spreads today that traditional copy is actually being replaced by alternative copy. So when you see the use of secondary coverage on a variety of different spreads, what's also very important is the writing still has to demonstrate solid reporting. Now, how do we do secondary coverage? Well, everyone's heard of the 51 ways to tell a story. And so what's cool about that is that these mods can look different, and they can actually provide a vehicle for different stories that provides diversity of content, both visually and verbally, within your book. So maybe you decide you want to do a checklist or an all coverage device, like I've already mentioned, or maybe you do glossary terms or an infographic, because infographics are huge right now. There's so many different ways to use secondary coverage. I've put 51 of them for you here. Word associations, stats, quizzes, photo diaries, minute by minute, maps. It's endless. It truly is endless in terms of the different ways that you can tell stories. So, secondary coverage. Another word for you that I want to introduce is spin-off, because this is where we take your verbal tagline and we create spin-off themes. I like to tell my students it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Here are 3 foolproof ways to actually create amazing spin-offs that will actually develop your theme throughout your entire book. One, you start with a verbal tagline. That's easy enough, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Number two, you then take that verbal tagline, you take all of the individual words within that verbal tagline, and you brainstorm a list of phrases that would contain those key words, and they become your thematic mods throughout your book. Once you have a list of those thematic mods, then that's when you start to pair it with your stories. So let's take a random theme and let's see how it can be done. Step one, here's the tagline. There's one in every crowd. The reason why I chose this is because it's meaty enough to give us several different words to create these brainstorm lists. So you could actually create a list of their phrases, one, every, and crowd. But let's just start with one because it's a great word. So if I were to compile all the different phrases that uses the word one, I would come up with huge variety of words. Okay, one in a million, all in one breath, hole in one, all in one place, wear more than one hat. You could exhaust a list of 50 or 100 different phrases. Now, obviously, you're not going to use that many in your publication. You'll cull it down to a manageable list, but you want to brainstorm as many as possible. Okay, so then you do that with every single word in your verbal tagline. So you do the same thing for the word every, you do the same thing for the word crowd. And once you compile all of those lists, you go on to step three. And this is where it meets magic. This is where you actually start to assign content to these brainstorming lists. And from there, you will create a library of all of these different mods that your students then can decide will help you tell the best stories on your content pages. So let's take a look. If we take the tagline, there's one in every crowd, let's now take lists from that brainstorming list that we came up with, those phrases, and let's now assign it to specific content. So for example, let's say you're doing a mod on golf club. Your headline for that mod, your spin-off headline, could be hole in one, okay? And then you would actually have a story about golf club. Or perhaps maybe you're doing a mod on track. A great spin-off mod headline would be one jump ahead. Or maybe all in one place is the spin-off that you're using, and you decide to do a story on where students are buying back to school supplies. Or perhaps maybe you want to do a story on hosting a foreign exchange student from Europe. So like one in the family would become your thematic spin-off mod, and then you would do the story on the exchange student. In one ear and out the other is a great spin-off if you want to do it, maybe an advice column, or maybe the story is about advice you should have taken and did not. How about all in one breath? You could do something on meditation or yoga or wearing more than one hat. We all know that teachers have part-time jobs. Wouldn't that be a great mod, excellent secondary coverage in your people section on your faculty and staff pages? And last but not least, maybe you do one at a time. That's your spin-off mod headline. But really what you do is then break down a task that is related to content on a page. So we've talked about sort of the steps, 1, 2, 3. So now I want to kind of take a closer look at some 2020 publications and show you how it's done. I'm going to start with Pell Middle School because it's the book that I know best, and I can probably talk about my book better than any other book. So let's kind of dive in for a little bit, and then we'll also talk about 2 other publications that are amazing this year. So let's start with what we did. So we came up with 2 different phrases and we merged them together for our verbal tagline. There's no stopping us, and it's go time. We had these 2 phrases, we put them together, it was magic. There's no stopping us, it's go time became our verbal tagline. So how do we come up with the spin-off phrases that you'll see throughout the book? Well, I had my students compile lists, tons of lists. So they started with the word no, and stopping, and us, and go, and time. And we had all of these exhaustive lists. And we decided that the way we were going to actually organize our book was to use umbrella coverage, because for the last 2 years we've used chronological and we wanted to do something different. So here's kind of a modified list of some of the different brainstorming phrases my students came up with for go mods, for stop mods, for no mods, and then the umbrella topics to the right. So let's kind of take a look at the book and to see how we did it. So this is our cover. As you can see, we decided to go with bold, vibrant colors, and typography became our graphic dominant element throughout the book. And you can see that our words are stacked in different weights of the Urbano font. So let's start on one of my favorite spreads, which is the summer spread. And I want to kind of talk to you a little bit about how we organized content on this page. We did a traditional dominant photo package with a story about two twins who went to sunny Costa Rica. But we also wanted to include as many people on the spread as possible. So if you notice down in the left-hand corner, you'll actually see our all-inclusionary device. And we anchored that to our folio. So this is it's our time section, which because we did umbrella coverage, we had student life, clubs, academics on these pages. And so you'll notice on the left-hand side of the all-inclusionary device, we have our umbrella topic. So the umbrella topic for this particular page is we're going to travel abroad. And then on every single ACD, we have a question that is tied to that umbrella topic. So because we're talking about travel, we ask students, what is the highlight of your summer? And so you'll see a number of different responses from 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, as well as staff members. And that's how we got as many students as possible into the book. But you'll also notice we have 3 mods on this page. So if you look at the left-hand corner of this page, we have a go mod. So we actually used its go time as a logo, and it becomes a very thematic mod for us. On this particular page, the subhead then tells you the content of the story. And really we talked to 2 different students who journeyed across the globe for their summer escape. And so it's little profiles on those 2 students. If you look at the mod at the bottom, it features 3 different students as well as a staff member. And since in Colorado, concert season is really big during the summer, we interviewed students who went to Red Rocks and saw a variety of different concerts. And so we used concerts we will go. So we're using go in a different phrase, which gives us verbal diversity. It's not redundant. So let's go on to a different page. This is our second summer spread. We actually decided on this spread to use time in our headline. Now, normally I would tell you that on content spreads, you really don't want to use spin-offs, but it really worked well on this particular page. So we do it sparingly throughout the book. So our dominant story is Rise and Shine. It's beach time, holiday in the sun. And then next to that is a mod that features not only a student who went to Belize, but also a teacher who went to California, Universal Studios, and went to Harry Potter World. And so our spin-off is half the fun is going there. If you look on the right-hand side of the page, we also have another mod that features 4 different students. And this mod is the time of our lives. And they really talked about what was like the one aspect that was the time of their lives during the summer. This particular spread focuses on my yearbook staff, and we had the opportunity to attend the CSMA J-Day conference. And so there's a ton of information on the spread. So to make it thematic, the going phrase is we're going to be storytellers because my students are storytellers. But then we asked individual students and staff member, everybody has a story, so what's yours? So that's a great way to use the theme to create a spin-off question to get more people into the book. So we have 2 mods on this particular spread, and we kind of played with the word no, and then stop our phrase, you can't stop us from winning again because we won in all Colorado. In the upper right-hand corner, we've got the no doubt about it spread where individual staff members talk about what was the highlights of the J-Day field trip for them. Now, we did an umbrella book, but we kind of did what I would describe as a hybrid umbrella book because we decided we really wanted to have a traditional sports section. So this is where umbrella kind of becomes a little more traditional. But we still continue to do the umbrella topics on the left-hand side of the folio. So this is, we're going for the spike. And then of course our thematic question was, how do you calm your nerves during competitions? There are two different mods on this spread that we developed with spin-off themes, the time of our lives. So you'll see that same mod topic, but then this is about the highlights of the volleyball season. To the right, we have an individual little profile on a student who really excelled during the season, and she was pulling out all the stops to win. Now, even in our people pages, in our reference section, which we titled It's Puma Time, we did what we would consider to be individual stories of perseverance. And we asked students to write first-person narratives about their personal story of perseverance. And so we actually used There's No Stopping and the student's name. So this particular story is about Evelyn, and she's really into scootering, and she spends hours after school scootering and actually coming up and mastering all these different tricks. We also included the ACD along the bottom, okay? And because our topic is we're going off the rails, which was related to her scootering, we asked students questions on this spread as well. So we like to include a variety of what we call interrupter spreads, and a lot of other people call them specialty spreads. It's essentially the same thing. And so this is an opportunity for us to do just secondary coverage. And so we have a series of these throughout the book. This one is It's Critter Time. Okay, we did It's Fashion Time, It's Trends Time, It's Twinning Time. But this is It's Critter Time. And what we decided to do is we decided to feature exotic pets. So yes, of course, we have the standard story about a dog, but we also have slithering snakes and lounging lizards and horses and bees and turtles and rowdy rodents. So on this spread, very much like the one you saw before, this is It's Twinning Time. And this was a really cool opportunity because we had so many twins in our school to talk to fraternal and identical twins about what it's like to be a twin. This is another interrupter spread that we did because we always do a spread on current events. And again, the way to make a current event spread thematic is to use a spin-off phrase. So we went pretty literal here with It's News Time, but I think the students did a really good job. As you can see, we're continuing to carry through that ACD along the bottom as well to anchor the spread. So even on content spreads like the colophon, you can actually be thematic and carry through your verbal theme. And so very much like the interrupters that I showed you before, we did It's Yearbook Time. Okay, sweet. It's short, it's to the point, but it's actually carrying through the verbal and the visual aspects of our theme. We also continued to carry through the ACD as well. So now I want to talk to you about Brighton High School, which is always one of my favorite books and my staff's favorite books. And so we got a sneak peek at their 2020 publication, and we're going to talk to you a little bit about how they did the exact same thing, which is carrying their verbal theme through secondary coverage. So here's their cover, and as you can see, it's absolutely stunning. Their verbal tagline is "Look closely, the feeling will come and you'll know it." It's a really long, meaty verbal tagline, which gave them a variety of different avenues to actually create secondary coverage throughout their book. So let's take a look. So the first spread we're going to look at is their summer spread. And so if you look at the upper right-hand corner, they're playing off the word know, okay? So if you look closely, the feeling will come and you will know it. They took the word know, and their headline for this mod is I Know What You Did Last Summer, which is obviously an homage to a movie as well. And so it's an opportunity to interview two different students about what they did over the summer. On this spread, what I really love about it is they have an ACD, or an all-inclusionary device, that literally took the logo from the cover with the same gold spot color, and it says look closely and get to know Eli Brackett. This is a really cool story about a kid who actually, he fractured one of his vertebrae and he thought that he was going to be paralyzed and wouldn't be able to continue playing as an athlete. But luckily he healed and he was able to resume his sports career. But it's strikingly beautiful. It brings both the visual and the verbal aspects of the theme onto a content spread. Let's take a look at this spread. It does the exact same thing. What I love is that they've moved that ACD down to the bottom quadrant of the spread. And this is a really cool story as well. It's an opportunity to look at one particular student. So we're looking closely, and instead of looking at a student, we're looking at a staff member. And this happens to be a little profile on a long-term sub who used to be a teacher in the building, has since retired, but then came back to actually sub for a teacher who was on medical leave. It's just a great story, okay? It's just awesome. Okay, I love this spread. Take a look at the dominant photo package. This is a story about some athletes who are gymnasts. What's interesting about this story is that actually they're kind of doing a spin-off in their headline package, feeling accomplished while keeping a balance. And so it's an homage to the word feel in the verbal tagline of their theme. But this is a really cool story. This is about some gymnasts who actually, they don't participate on a gymnast team at Brighton because there isn't one. So they actually go to a sister school in Thornton that has an amazing gymnastics team, and they actually competed with them. Kind of a really cool story and an opportunity for students to collaborate with students in the community, but at a different school. I love this spread. This is a specialty spread or an interrupter spread. And they did about 10 or so of these spreads throughout their book, and it's a look closely spread. And so this one is looking closely at a 7-day period. So what you do is you've got secondary and tertiary mods on period 1, period 2, period 3, period 4, all the way through the 7 different periods. And so you're featuring a variety of students, a variety of different classes. It's a fantastic spread, and it really is making thematic an interrupter spread. They did it again with this one. This spread was actually created during the quarantine. And so this spread highlights what students and staff did while they were quarantined at home. It's visually stunning. The stories are fantastic. And again, it's using a spin-off, look closely and remember what you did while at home, to develop that theme. Okay, let's talk about Smoky Hill. So very much like Brighton High School, Smoky Hill, this book is one of my favorites and my staff's favorites every year. We can't wait to take a look at it. And so here's a little sneak peek of the 2020 Summit Yearbook. So I love their verbal tagline. We may be small, but we go big. I love this theme because it's the juxtaposition of small and big. I mean, the story possibilities are endless with this and in developing secondary coverage stories. So let's take a look at what they did on a few other pages as well. This is a really cool spread, and it has 2 different mods on it. And so if you go back to what Smoky Hill's verbal theme is, we may be small, but we go big, they're going to play with the word big in different versions on the spread. So on the left-hand side, you have a question, a thematic question. What was the biggest thing about your summer? Okay, and then you have 4 different students who are answering that question. Great way to get more people on your spread. And then you have another mod that's using the word big in a spinoff, but big stuff is happening. And then if you take a look at the subhead, this is about summer includes culture, college, and volunteer activities. Smoky does a great job of using these spin-off themes to tell amazing stories about their community. Okay, so here's another spread from Smoky Hill and the Summit staff. And what I really like about this one is they have 2 different mods, and it's a play on words where they flip the words we and may. Super clever. So look at the headline on the mod on the bottom. It's "We may be at step practice." And so it's an opportunity to talk to a student about what they did at step practice. But then if you contrast that with the spin-off headline on the mod at the top, they flipped it. And now it's "May we have your attention, please?" And this particular mod, instead of staying local, is going to go global, and it talks about the hurricane that hit the Bahamas. Another gorgeous spread. Again, if you take a look at Smoky Hill's verbal, it's the juxtaposition, like I said before, of the two opposite extremes of small and big. So we may be small, but we go big. And you have two different mods on the spread, super genius. Just a small glimpse where they take a look at what DECA did at their mock districts. And then you've got the opposite, it's a big deal, where it actually showcases Greenhouse Club, where they went about painting murals. So amazing wordplay. It's a great example of developing your theme verbally. I like this spread because of, again, we go back to a question: what are the biggest things you look forward to after winter break? So previous spread was on summer. This is now about winter. Another opportunity to interview several different students for, in this case. And then I really like the mod on the left, "We go." And then it's going to showcase where these students went on a particular date, because Smokey did a chronological book. So seniors post their Senior Sunday photos on January 12th. One thing I absolutely love about every Summit book is that they actually include secondary coverage in their index. And not a lot of schools do that, but schools should, okay? They're continuing to tell stories even in the index. It's genius. And so at the beginning of their index, we're kind of a big deal, play on the words, and then they've got a story about the swimmers who qualified for state. We go big. So in conclusion, fellow Yeards, my hope for your publication is that you can use the 1, 2, 3 mode of actually creating secondary coverage and weaving it through your publication and using that verbal to create spin-off themes. May the force be with you. I really hope you do an amazing job with your 2021 yearbooks. Again, my name is Yvette Mansulich, and I am the yearbook advisor at Powell Middle School. If you want to reach out, if you have questions, concerns, comments, you can always reach me at my email. I'm happy to field any kind of comments, questions you might have throughout the year. Good luck, guys. You can do this. Take your publication to the next level. Elevate it. Have a great day. Bye.